Good morning. Wow. Well, I have a very healthy reminder that last time we met, we did an experiment to come to understand why it is that some of you have to wait to be admitted to the call. And I have a very healthy reminder this morning that there's like 6 or 7 of you that were kind of waiting to be admitted, and so um, I'm gonna while we're taking meeting minutes and things, I'm gonna go invite each of you explicitly to the call because I think that's what we figured out was the issue. That many of you were invited through the mailing list and not directly. So we'll go work on that. Otherwise, good morning. Welcome to 2020. Oh, some of us, yeah. Yeah. Some of us are still waking up to the new year. Some of us are yet to officially be off vacation, so it's there's an excuse for being sleepy-eyed. Actually, D-Raj, looking at you, I was up until about 1 a.m. last night working on a paper with Pankaj and Angela from Citrix. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Nice to hear that.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. I was beginning to point out some of the work that you were doing as well. So I'm not sure if that'll be in this upcoming paper or the next, but that's good. Okay, well, good. Well, so welcome everybody. It's the Friday the 3rd of 2020. And I'm getting used to saying that. I'm hoping to avoid any jokes about 2020 vision, but we'll see. If you don't have the link to the meeting minutes, then we'll put that into the chat. As a matter of fact, if anyone has that, I need to grab it as well. Put it into the chat. Just a reminder to everyone that these are community meetings, so that they're publicly held. Everyone is welcome to attend and interject as you want to. So please do speak up. Please do help take the meeting minutes. We're also recording the calls, so keep what swear words you can to yourself, or if you don't, that's fine. Just know that they'll be published on YouTube. I'll grab the meeting minutes and we'll get started. All right, a link to the minutes is in the Hangouts chat. Do record your attendance if you're here. And if you're not here, there's a few of you who have sent some regrets. So I'm going to get those recorded. Is anyone else feeling as tired from their New Year's Eve activities as I am? Anyone else do something this year that they already regret? Let's see. Regrets. Raghav as well. So speaking of things that people regret already, Nuno and Raghav send their regrets to the meeting. Nuno says he'll be here next week, and that Raghav says he'll meet up in just a couple hours actually after the meeting. I think Nuno is maybe the first one regretting something this year. He tells me that he's currently in IKEA with his family and that I should save him if I can. Yeah, no such luck. So, okay, one general topic this time around, I think, and that is to have a quick call out to SuperKit, who's here for the second community meeting. So awesome. Super, you're showing consistency already, so that's fantastic. And then also to welcome Mohit. I think you're on the community call for the first time.
Yes, it's my first time.
Oh yeah. Oh, very good. Look at that. You've got full bandwidth and everything. This is great. We can actually hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, good. Well, so Mohit, if you want to take a moment just to introduce yourself to the rest of the folks here, that would. I think you're familiar with some of them, but maybe not all of them.
Yeah, I've heard some of you. I've heard about some of you from my friends, from my college friends who are already there. Actually, I'm reading with them. I'm in final year BTech in UEM Jaipur, University of Engineering and Management Jaipur, and I have some knowledge of programming languages like C, C++, Java, and Python. I find it much more interesting to learn new things here and learn and work on new technologies here.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, as soon as you said C and C++, oh,
Yes,
I immediately understood where you might be able to help out right away. We'll talk about that in just a bit. So it's great to have you on the call. This is fantastic. You've come to the right
yeah,
place
thank you.
to learn too. So there's
Yes, sir, thank you.
and then very good. And then actually, I don't mean to call out Nupur just as you've joined the call, but we were just doing introductions and getting to know Mohit a little bit. And so, Nupur, welcome to the community call and welcome to 2020. Since we're doing just some brief introductions, Nupur, do you want to just introduce yourself briefly and let everyone get to know you a little bit?
Hi everyone. Am I audible?
There you are. Yep, you are.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Nupur. In my final year of Bachelor of Engineering and of Computer Science. Recently, I have done a project in NLP for 6 months. I'm still doing some parts of it because I was interested. And I have done a project using a technology Ansible.
Oh.
And I have also done projects in cloud computing. And I am picking up basics on NLP on my own. In terms of language, I am currently using majorly Python and trying to pick Go. In past, I have also done C, C++. Java, I know like bits of it, not really fluent with that. And I've also made projects in web development. I've also done a course in that. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and bootstrapping using all these technology in web development.
Oh, nice.
So that's it about all my technical skills.
Oh yeah. Okay. You had to take a big breath to say all that. That was great. Well, can you say a little bit more about the use cases that you have for the natural language processing that work that you've been doing?
Okay, so the major project was English to Hindi machine translation problem. We were contributing to mutual bootstrapping of resources for alignment of word and phase alignment. So in that, I worked on multiple modules. The recent one I'm working is anaphora resolution module. It's a NLP problem in which like there is a sentence, Ram is my brother. He is doing engineering. So when a machine learning model or English to Hindi translation model go sentence by sentence, you need to refer that he is referring to his brother. So for that Ram is my brother, he is doing engineering. So how in second sentence you refer that he is Ram? So Ram is an anaphora for he. So that resolution is required in terms of translation that this is a boy. If we have to write a sentence, so Ram is referring that this is a boy. So this is one module I'm working on. I've worked on the module that is like creating dictionary from bilingual corpora on the basis of the corpus. For example, there is in any English or Hindi corpus word or it may vary from author to author that specific meaning of a word, like for example, a word tree. There are different meanings for that, but a specific author may use different words in different languages. So for that alignment purpose, on the basis of the frequency, meaning, and a dictionary was created. That was a module individually done by me. And there was another module, transliteration module, which I worked on. That is basically if there is a name of a person in one language or in another language, they all have same phonetics. Supposingly, my name Nupur in English is same. In Hindi, the what do you call alphabets using for that is different, but they sound same. So for aligning such words, I created a module, and there was other module which for which I use Selenium to extract data from websites and then work further on. So I've also used Selenium WebDriver in Python and then worked on that.
Nice. Some pretty interesting problems. I think the one that you were just describing around having an author based or an individual based phonetic dictionary, that's interesting. And that you could come to see how you might train an NLP specific to an individual. That's cool. But the other one where you're creating those references, those relationships between Ram as a male and Ram as a male, not only a male, but Ram as a brother as a relationship to the author, to the individual speak. Like, yeah, some pretty interesting. We may have to talk more NLP here. That's some interesting work.
Yes.
Okay, well, cool. Now that I've totally digressed this into your stuff. So just maybe last question on that was, so the technologies that we're using for NLP, are these those modules that you were writing, the tech that you're working with, was any of this from public cloud providers that you were basing this on, or is this just all custom written stuff?
It was all custom. There was no usage of any cloud technology. I was majorly using Python for the coding purpose.
Okay.
And I did not use anything major from cloud. There were people working on Docker, but nothing on cloud. So there.
Interesting. Okay. Well, awesome. Okay, well, good. Well, so Nupur, we actually we talked quite some long time ago, and I think between internships and school and things, you'd signaled that, like, hey, just your plate is overspilling, and so now I can see why. That's cool. So very pleased that we've turned the new year and that you might have some free cycles to spend here. So this is great. We'll talk some more after the call.
Yes, definitely.
Nice. And then, so Mohit and Nupur, welcome. Thanks for introducing to the other folks. I think that just really helps them identify things that they can chat with you about, areas of interest potentially in the project that they might be able to describe to you. As we go through the rest of the call, hopefully we'll do maybe a demo or two, and that will help just get you introduced to some aspects of the project. Normally on the calls, we'll go through and talk about some things in general, happenings within the industry, or conferences that Meshri is being presented at, or articles that Meshri has shown up in. And there's actually quite a bit of that in the general topics from weeks prior. We're looking at bringing Meshri into the CNCF, blah, blah, blah. There's the Meshri was presented at KubeCon about 3 different times this last time, and so on. For today, since we've been a lot of us have been on vacation mode the last couple of weeks, I don't know that we've got much external sort of general topics to discuss, other than what I had mentioned to D-Raj a minute ago about potentially having Meshri mentioned in some forthcoming Citrix marketing. So we'll see. So just a couple of small items to walk through. One is that last time, I think it was either Ashish or Gunjan had asked about an issue that was opened up for Meshry.io, and this is maybe a good thing for all of us to reflect on a little bit. And that's, let me introduce the issue, and that's the notion that for the main project, there's about 3 projects that people are contributing to here in this community call, and the main one being Meshry. Meshry.io is the relatively small project site that describes the project and the people that are involved and things that are going on. And we got it together in very short order just before KubeCon here in San Diego about a month ago. And because we did it so rushed, it's a bit incomplete. So really the menu up here just has 4 links, and there's much more about the project than just these 4 links. And so we were reflecting on how to augment that menu and actually maybe lay it out like this, where we'd have a link to the docs, a link to the community, the blog, and then another one about connecting with the community. Underneath there would be a submenu full of items, another one for resources about the project, and finally to run Meshry. And so, yeah, was it Ashish? Are you on the call? Was this one after we had elaborated on it? Did this one strike your fancy? Are you considering to dig in here?
Yeah, sir. I basically talked about this particular issue, and after that you addressed this particular issue in that meeting that day only.
Okay. So as you consider potentially taking it on, or as anyone else who's on the call that might want to, I'll note this, that there are, so Meshry.io is the technologies behind this relatively simple site are a couple of different things, but mostly Jekyll. Jekyll is the static site generator that we use. And not only do we use Jekyll for Meshry.io, but we use it for Layer5.io, which is the community that binds together all of the different projects that we do. Jekyll is also the static site generator that we use for the Meshry docs. And so almost all of you are familiar with the Meshry docs. There is meshry.layer5.io/docs. And we've been changing these a little bit, trying to get them into a better place, into a better shape. And actually, D-Raj, now that I look at this, I'm reminded of you and some potential places for you to jump in and list CPX. But anyway, point is, the Meshry documentation is also based on Jekyll. And the consistency by which we're using some of the same technology, I think, helps. Helps each of you go back and forth between them all. And so my point is, as we go to overhaul the Meshry.io site menu, that we would ideally use the same type of menu that is on Layer5.io. So I'll make a quick note that whoever it is that picks this up, that you can use the Layer5.io menu and its JavaScript, which isn't much, as a template for this. So. Any comments or questions on this? Is this an issue that strikes anyone's interest? Okay, and if it doesn't, that's no problem. That is, but if it does, and you take a look at it later, each of you, and I think for Mohit and Nupur, I need to go double check on this, but each of you should have permissions within GitHub, within the Layer5.io organization, to create issues, triage issues, close issues, assign them, etc. And so you can always come back and pick it up should you ever want to. So Ashish, I guess we'll call on you again. In the Meshri Istio adapter, we'd recently, with Harshini's help, we'd recently turned on some new static error checks as part of the build process for that particular repository. And I think you were the unfortunate soul that picked up that work and is working through it. So that's good. I know you and Gunjan have knocked out quite a bit of those things in the past. I'm bringing this up to say that let me show an example of the checks that are happening. So every time that this adapter, the Meshri Istio adapter, is built, there are a number of different steps in the build process. This Meshri Istio repository has more steps, I think, than any other repository. And for whatever reason, we just chose this repository to start enabling the error checking for Go and the static analysis checking for Go as well. And so as we've turned those on, those utilities have found some issues. And so you're helping us work through those, and that's great. The reason I'm bringing this up now is to say that it's an opportune time for us to go enable the same error checking and the same static checking on the other adapters. So things like the Meshri CPX adapter, that if we go look at how it's being built currently, it has much fewer steps, and that's okay. It's in a beta status, and we want to work toward getting it into a stable status and promoting that a lot and getting people to use it. As we go to do that, we would want to enable some of those additional checks, the error check, and so Garish, if we can, maybe it's most appropriate. Well, actually, it doesn't need to be Garish. I guess it really can be anybody. We want to take those and begin to enable them across the other adapters. If someone picks that up and does it, that you're able to enable those checks just by copying the build steps. The build steps are done through GitHub Actions. Most of you, but maybe not all of you, are familiar with GitHub Actions as a relatively new capability that GitHub has released. And those workflows, those actions are described inside of a workflow. The workflows are captured on a per repository basis because different repositories are built, the code is built in different ways. And so they're captured here. At many of the workflows that we have defined across all the repos that we have, they look pretty similar with some slight differences. And here, what I was saying is, in order to enable static checks and the error checks, it would really just be a copy of these lines. We take and put those into the other adapter repositories and begin working through those same issues. It's an opportune time to work on those same issues because they're going to be very similar when you look at them across different adapters. And so does anyone have questions on what I just said? Does it make sense to anyone? Does that excite anyone to go get more familiar with GitHub Actions, work through some of the error and static checks? And D-Raj, just because you're an adapter maintainer on the call, I'll say that's a good. I'll push on you to say, hey, you may want to go add those checks to the CPX adapter and kind of help get it toward. Yeah.
Sure. I already opened the page just to see where all I have to put it. So I already made a mental note that yes, these are the things, and this is a really good addition we need to have. It's kind of it will really make our code robust. So yes, it's good.
Nice. Good. Okay. Any other comments on what we just talked about? Okay, fair enough. Last week we talked about an item around Prometheus and Grafana. I also understand that Prometheus and Grafana might be new to some of us. So Prometheus is a very popular open source tool for more or less collecting metrics. And the metrics can be about anything that you want them to be about, temperature or traffic or whatever. And Grafana is an open source project that's a visualization tool for creating graphs of metrics. And Meshery integrates with both of those. So last time we demoed and discussed an open issue that Shubham was working on, and it might be that Raghav would work on a bit. Shubham, are you on the call? Did you have any other comments here or any progress that you want to discuss? And so Shubham is here. He isn't in a position to talk today, so he's sending over messages in chat. And so I guess, Shubham, if you've got any update or outstanding questions here, let us know. As Shubham sends in his updates, maybe we'll move over to Nikhil. Happy 2020. How I understand you've been chasing down D3.js and now hopefully have maybe a specific thing to chase after in Cytoscape.
Yes, sir. First of all, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I've been learning D3 since yesterday. I've started a full-fledged course, downloaded it, and almost done 1/3 of it. Fact.
Oh, nice.
So for the starting itself, I've learned to make few bar charts using D3. I'll surely share my screen now.
Please.
Sure. Yeah. This is a demo of a bar chart. That's it. That is built basically on the file that contains some data for this restaurant. That is basically a star bake copy. That is just a demo data. Using the data of the restaurant, which contains the revenues of it for different months, it makes a bar graph. It is not predefined data. It can vary. The value of the graph can vary depending upon the revenues from the file. So we don't need to hard code the data or the values itself in the program. It will change basically depending on the values in the file. We just need to replace the file that we want to represent on the graph. Similarly, we can build pie charts and other graphs. And soon I'll be over to the network part that we want to use as per Kirisa in our mission, so that we can represent different containers that currently many other projects are using, like Kialia and Cytoscape. So till now, this is what I have learned, and soon I'll be moving to D3 Force that uses for the network part.
Nice. Okay, then to provide context for other folks, so within Meshery today, there isn't a visual, or rather, clearly there's a user interface. There isn't necessarily a canvas or an interface where you can visualize topology of the services and of the service meshes that are there. And having that is very helpful to those that are trying to operate their service mesh environments. Other projects have similar visual topologies. And actually, I keep on calling out Citrix, and so I'll say that there's within, now I forget the specific, I think it's Citrix ADM. There's a service graph.
That's correct.
Yeah, which is a fantastic piece of technology. It helps people visually understand their environment. Maybe I'll try to show a screenshot of it. The effort that we would give inside of Meshery is on the surface may appear similar, but is really for different use cases. Service graph, if that's the... This is just a top of mind example. There's a number of projects and examples. I think last time that we were on a call, I think we brought up Kiali as a project and sort of showed how that user interface looked like. So the details aren't particularly important, but oftentimes you'll use an interface like this to for monitoring and some observability to let people better visualize and comprehend the different containers, the different applications and services that are running on the meshes. In Meshery's use cases, tend to focus a bit higher up on multiple service meshes, multiple different types of service meshes, visualizing them, helping show federated meshes and traffic across them. Probably one of the initial use cases for a visual topology within Meshery has a bit more to do with performance testing, performance benchmarking, and the ability to visualize the environment, maybe click on a node in the graph and have Meshery generate load against that node, and then and visualize that load a bit. So I'm not sure if I'm running. No, I'm not running Meshery locally, but as I describe that, I'm going to bring up Meshery. As I described that, does that use case that I talked about performing a performance benchmark test, initiating it from a visual interface like that, does that make sense to people? Can you visualize what I'm trying to describe? And I guess to Nikhil, maybe to you in particular, does that make sense? Because that's something that so here, if people today people come to generate load and do a performance test using this interface, and so they would, here's a sample test. I think I'm running Istio somewhere, and if I'm not, actually it doesn't matter. Let me just generate load against this endpoint. It can be an endpoint on a service mesh or an endpoint off of a service mesh. People can choose between two different load generators. And Mohit, earlier when you said C and C++, I was thinking of WRK2 and some of the functionality that we're wrapping around WRK2. If memory serves, Girish, WRK2 is mostly in C. And some of the things that we're looking to do there are then clearly in C. And so Mohit, note for you, but going back to the use case of this is as visual as we've got for showing people that they're letting them initiate a performance test. And this is not bad. When it's done, we'll graph out the results of the test. Hopefully, so now that I navigated away, we'll probably, let me do it again. I'm probably not doing it on a service mesh. We'll just do it for 5 seconds. Oops. I guess maybe I didn't set up my environment even. I'm probably not even authenticating things. Anyway, point is, it doesn't matter. I think most of you have seen bar charts and graphs before. Point is, that's how people initiate, users initiate performance tests today. Tomorrow, quote unquote, Nikhil, as you look at Cytoscape and D3.js, that if you've got a visual interface from which you can identify a node and that node has an endpoint associated, like google.com. It wouldn't be google.com, maybe like book info, a sample apps endpoint. They would click on that and then initiate a perf test using that interface as opposed to the interface that I just demoed. Nikhil, does that make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Actually, G sir shared me a file of scope that was already using that thing. And when I clicked on the node, it shows me the containers, what my containers are working, and how my containers are using my CPU and all. So I think it's a similar way that you are saying.
Very good. Yeah, that's
Just
right.
for-
Yeah, that's right. Okay, that's right. Okay, good. So these are some leftover action items from last week that unfortunately have a lot of them have my name against them, and I don't have them all done. So I don't want to waste people's time by taking you back through them. Instead, I wanted to stop talking and get us down to maybe some other things to talk about and demo.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. I just had a question. When for the Meshi CTL upgrade, you asked me to check whether curl was working or not. So I applied the command, and basically the command is not for Windows, as I checked. The code is not for Windows. It is only for Linux and Darwin.
Nice. Anand, are you with us? Do you want to speak to this?
Yes, sir.
And we might be confusing two things. It might be that Nikhil is providing an update on the recent functionality that you built called Meshery. Well, I don't know if it was. I mean, I know you recently built Meshery version, a Meshery CTL version, but did you provide Nikhil something around Meshery CTL upgrade?
No, actually, I didn't did anything with Messi CTL upgrade till now. Actually, it's
Actually, when you said regarding the new upgrade for Meshi CTL new version, then at that time you referred to me a curl command through which we can upgrade the Meshi CTL directly to command prompt CMD itself.
Oh, okay. Was that like a brew install or brew update Meshery CTL?
That was using brew. Other than brew, we can according to that you referred using curl. The command was curl -l
Yeah.
http git.io/mesh -bash.
Okay.
And this was the bash file that it referred. So as I looked on it, it doesn't contains any data for Windows, because if the OS is Windows, then it won't recognize, and the command will not run for the further.
Very good. Okay.
yes. Actually, I and Girish had a talk about this a long time ago. So we thought we will just put the like notice for Windows user that we will redirect them to the release page so that they can download the latest version, because we don't have yet a strategy to overcome this, because it's a bash script and it's not working on Windows. It's hard to detect.
Makes sense. Okay. So let me reintroduce the problem statement, I think, so everyone can chime in a bit. Is my screen being shared? Can you guys see? I guess I can't tell anymore.
We do see two of you, but the problem is, when I do see a screen being presented.
Okay.
Right. For some reason, when you're talking, it's your other thing, your camera that's taking preference over the other one. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you guys are seeing too much of me then. Okay. So I stopped sharing. I'm resharing. The reason I'm resharing is just to say Last week when we met, some of us took some action items away, so to speak, and one of them Nikhil had taken. He's updating us on, and that was on the installation and upgrade procedure of Meshery. Specifically, he was confirming that there's a couple of ways that we offer to users to install Meshery CTL. The one that we had historically had was this curl statement, which gets piped to bash. And recently we'd provided support for brew and a whole packet, a brew package, to install Meshery CTL this way. And this should work for Mac or Linux users either way. And so should this curl command work for Mac or Linux users. The Windows users, we don't have a script just yet, and I think Nuno, who's not on the call, was probably signing up to write a Windows-based script. But there are kind of, I think there are sort of two aspects to this. What you were looking into, Nikhil, if I recall, one was the thing that you were looking into here most recently was the use case where you're looking to update Meshery CTL. So you've already at some point run this bash script. You've already installed Meshery CTL on your Linux machine. And then a new version of Meshery CTL comes out and you're looking to upgrade. I think maybe one of the questions was, if you rerun this, does it handle updating your existing version of Meshery CTL to the new version? And I guess on that, do you know, Anand and folks, do we expect that would work?
I guess not, because there is no, it is not defined in the Windows. It is not defined for Windows.
That makes sense.
So actually, just to chime in, in this area, yes, Anand was right. A while back, we didn't have a solution, but we recently did actually, kind of after our episodes, our success episodes with Brew, we actually were looking at another solution. We even have a bug open. I think I forgot the bug number. It's like 492 or something. I'm pasting the tool. It's called Scoop. So you guys can actually take a look at the link I pasted in the chat here. So it's called scoop.sh, SCOP.sh. That is actually a tool for, it's kind of a very similar thing, like Brew for Windows. So, and Scoop, just like Brew, has this thing where, it lets you to install a bunch of things with it. So our eventual plan is to actually make Meshery CTL available through Scoop. I'm sorry, Lee, I forgot the bug number. I'm just going to look it up. So I remember I might have messaged this to somebody yesterday. I'm just going to take a look at it. 492 or something else. But if you search for Scoop, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find it. Yeah, exactly. So 490, okay, pretty close. Yeah, so this one here, once we tackle this, it'll actually make our lives a lot easier for Windows users, because Scoop lets you to publish artifacts just like we're doing for Brew, and Windows users can just install Scoop, and then they can just do a Scoop install Meshery CTL or something like that, and they'll have Meshery CTL installed. And same way for upgrading, I'm pretty sure Scoop supports something of a similar sort like Brew. So once we have this story completed or targeted, I'm pretty sure we will actually have a much better story to say for Windows.
Nice. Good. Okay, so that helps us with the Windows support. One thing for us to verify. We confused. I conflated probably a couple of topics. The other one the other topic was under the use case of updating Meshry CTL itself. And Anand, I think so. So I think we have the ability to update Meshry CTL for Brew users relatively easily. They're able to type, Brew update Meshry CTL, and it will update the Meshry CTL binary on their system, and that's confirmed and works. And I think Gunjan and Ashish both helped with some documentation of that. But Anand, one of the issues that we were gonna discuss today was this Meshry CTL upgrade, the ability for Meshry CTL to upgrade itself.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Do you want to just give people an update on your efforts there?
Yeah, sure, sir. So I'm starting my own. I'm sharing my screen. Just a second.
And I'll put a link to the issue that Anand is working on in the chat.
Sure. So currently the update command does not perform an auto operation of mystery binary, and it just downloads. It just updates the other files, the compose files that are needed. So the issue that I'm working on is about updating the mystery binary on its own when we do mystery update, and it's partially complete. I would say for Mac it's complete, and for Linux it's partially complete, and it's for Windows I have to talk to Greece and have a better idea on it. But in case of Linux, I'm facing a problem for slash USR binary. Yeah, let me just use my script. So for now, and all the files that I have just used it. Let me remove my Meshry CTL. I have my terminal visible. For now, when we do like go run main.go update, it tries to find the correct version, the OS on which it's running, like Linux or Mac, and the architecture of the OS. Then it downloads the file that are download the zip file for the binary, and then it extracts that to the slash USR local bin. But in case of Linux, there is a problem where the folder is on root, so the user cannot does not have a write permission. So I'm facing that problem for the update command, and talking to Greece before the community meeting. Yeah, there was a solution like we can use sudo, but in case of sudo, the code was trying to locate .meshry folder where the zip file is downloaded, and in root it is not previously present. So in case of sudo, we need to create a folder, and I'm still working on it. I think Girish has told me the idea about how we can solve the problem. I can replicate the issue. I think it's taking.
And there will be another interesting challenge as well. So what are you doing now is great. Like, so I mean, the interesting thing would be, so you have to think that you are using your Go command to run it. So swapping the mesh CTL binary wouldn't be a hard thing. But when an end user is doing it, they are running mesh CTL and you're trying to swap the mesh CTL. So it might, I mean, I'm just saying that it might present an interesting challenge, but that's something like, which I want you to confirm, like, as you are making progress, you might hit a different roadblock because right now you are running it using the go run command, but rather you should try build your code and then run it using mesh CTL. So it's like do a mesh CTL upgrade and so which will download the zip file, explode it, place and try to place the executable in the right folder, which essentially will actually try to overwrite the file that itself is executing. So that might actually present an interesting challenge. But I'm pretty sure we can actually work through it as you're making progress here.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Awesome, dude. Cool. Anand, I'm sorry, I thought you were going to show something else. So this is great. I'm pretty sure you are heading in the right direction. And I really hope the conversations we had on Slack definitely help you to move forward. So again, I'm pretty sure you'll hit some more walls, and we will work through them and get this whole thing to work. This definitely is an interesting piece. All right. So now I have a very tiny demo. I know we have 6 minutes. I hope you guys can see my screen. I have a terminal which is split into two. One at the top is actually running Meshry. The bottom one is actually a terminal. Now, one of the things, I just got back from my vacation a day back. So yesterday I was busy with something else, but then I kind of was trying to play with this interesting thing. Now I'm pretty sure Lee would have Lee and I presented the concept of providers that was introduced into Meshry about 2 weeks back. So that was the 20th or 19th of December, so something along that line, the week before the last. And we introduced the concept of providers. So now there are two providers, a cloud provider type and a local provider type. Now, that was great. We got it to work. That's fantastic. But one of the interesting things that was still present is that even with the local provider, since the local provider was still leveraging and banking on the session infrastructure that's used in Meshry, one of the challenges was that if you try to invoke a load test outside of the browser, it would not permit you, because what would happen is it would directly kind of redirect you to the login page. So in the terminal you'll just see that it redirected to a page which says found and something like that. So what I was working on a bit in the last 2 days is that I try to tweak this a bit, and kind of take it a bit further. That so if it is a local provider, if the provider's type is a local provider and not a cloud provider, then what I've done is I've kind of tweaked the flow in a way that it'll actually permit an end user to actually perform a load test. If of course, if the provider is actually a local provider, not a cloud provider, which means, in simple words, I'm not sure if you guys have run Meshry recently on your local. There is a new setting called the no auth. So now when the no auth is set to true, what Meshry would do is Meshry would actually rather use a local provider, which means that it will not try to talk to the Meshry cloud for authentication. It doesn't have to be Meshry cloud alone, but so that's kind of where we're ensuring that there can be more providers, but Meshry cloud is kind of one of them. Is kind of what we're trying to establish. So so with the no auth turned on, again, like I explained, the load test would not wouldn't be possible. So what I've done today is the tweak of it. And now what I'm going to show is actually a curl command here. Essentially, the browser does something very similar. So essentially it actually calls, when you hit load test, with all the form parameters filled in, it actually constructs a URL. You can see that's the URL, the API load test was the URL, and then all the rest are all parameters and their values. Like the name is the name of the test. The mesh is actually the mesh value. Here in this case, it's a no mesh, so there's no value there. The URL is actually github.com, and queries per second is 1. Concurrency is 1. The number of threads is 10. And the duration is S is 1 second or 10 seconds. So the point is so keeping it simple. So this will actually initiate a load test. And if things work, then you should see the results being printed out. Of course, the results will be in JSON because this is a curl, which will be the raw data that's coming from the backend server. Eventually, we can actually try to include this as part of Mesh3CTL, try to decorate it so that people can actually use Mesh3CTL to invoke this load test, which will essentially talk to Mesh3 and get the load test done. So I want to see, so once I hit enter, you can see that, we got the initial thing which says, load test was initiated. It's going to take a few seconds, and bingo, you can see that, the rest of the messages just, came down. Now, one interesting thing, if you have noticed, is that the connection was kept open until all the test results were published, and then it got terminated. This is because for performing the load test and for providing live feedback, we are using a persistent socket, which is we're not using WebSockets though. We're using what's called a service sent events. So this is actually based on that, which is reason why, when I use curl, you saw the first data came in, the second data came in, and so on and so forth until everything came down. And the final thing, it says the status was success, and the result is actually the entire payload. Now, of course, in the UI, this payload is what is used to construct the charts. So, but here, this is a terminal, so so we don't have that. Now, the whole purpose of this demo is actually to kind of say that we are venturing into the space where we do want people to start using Mesh3 from their CI. It doesn't have to be just their CI. It can be for example, people can have eventually we can actually create an operator for Mesh3 which will kind of get deployed and will be run using a cron job or something which will periodically keep testing the services, collecting the results so that people can eventually compare them. So those are some of the use cases. This is going to open up Mesh3 too, so which is kind of great. So this is kind of a very simple first step. Of course, there's much more cleaning to do, and and then getting it to the mainstream is going to be an interesting thing. So yeah, that pretty much concludes my demo. I think I've pretty much used all the 6 minutes. If you have any questions, please feel free to. That concludes my demo there. And we are pretty much on top of the hour.
Nice. I'll ask if anyone has quick questions. I'll also say that Grish may have said this, but and I know we've said this a number of times on previous meetings, and that is part of the driver for the functionality that Grish is sharing is that, well, not every single one of the service meshes that we have adapters for, but about at least 4 of them. So Istio, Linkerd, Console, Octarine, they've all committed to using Mesh3 and Mesh3's performance benchmarking capabilities within that service mesh's build process, within that project's build and release process. And hence the need for Mesh3 to be driven in a headless way. So Grish, you may have just said that, I may have missed it, but just to reinforce that that's one of the drivers. That's not the only way in which people would use Mesh3 in a headless way. So part and parcel to that capability is the notion that, and again, you might have just said this, I might have missed it, but it would be, and this is open to everyone who's on the call, and that is, would be a reflection of the Meshry CTL itself and the command structure, the syntax that people would use to, Grish, did you just explore this and suggest that people give thought to this? The Meshry CTL, kind of the way in which people would interface with this?
Yes, I did mention.
Oh,
yes.
okay, good. Yeah, so then I won't repeat it. So yeah, actually, that if people would think about it, so if you're sitting there using Meshry CTL today, Meshry CTL mostly focuses on lifecycle management of Meshry itself as a tool, but here with capabilities like what Garish just showed, we should have something like Meshry CTL. Run perf or start perf or perf start, or like there needs to be some command line interface for performing those actions, for sort of performing benchmark tests. Ideally, people would be able to define a test profile, a description of how the thing that they're filling in the UI for how long they want to run the test, how intensely they want to, and they would be able to refer to that profile rather than having a super long command that has 20 different arguments on it. Rather, they could point to a JSON file or a YAML file, and actually that YAML file it's really one of the other projects that we have coming up. And I've described it in the past. I won't describe it now because it'll take a little while, but it's a different Linux Foundation project that's being spun up, and it's being spun up around service mesh performance benchmarking. And there's an initial YAML that we have in the community that describes this format. For all of you, it's visible on github.com. Bringing it up. So this way of describing the type of test that you're going to run and capturing the output and capturing the description of your environment is actually this project here. This project, we're looking at donating to the Linux Foundation and having Google, IBM, and a number of other, VMware and a few others, participate in the definition of this. We've talked to each of them. They're excited about it. As a matter of fact, this work is based on Google's, the Istio performance team's work. So they're excited that we're taking it forward. But this is a simple description of how it is that what type of performance test you want to run. And so rather than defining all of this, on the command line, you would just point to a file like this. So something good to get familiarized with, because I think as a community, we'll be working more in this space. I'll put a link to it in the meeting minutes for folks. Anyone have anything else as we go to conclude today?
So, hey Lee, you said you wanted to discuss about this in the upcoming release of Meshry, right?
Yeah.
Of the state in that.
That's right. So that we can include the CPX adapter by default, such that whenever someone did a Meshry CTL start, that they would see a sixth adapter. They would see the next. This reminds me, we don't have super formal graduation processes for adapters. Let me ask this. So probably we need a volunteer or two on the call to take and exercise the CPX adapter. So Dheeraj, maybe in order to enable a couple of would-be volunteers on the call to kind of test the adapter, if you're able to provide instructions on how to run it, if there's anything distinct from the Istio adapter that the CPX adapter they need to consider for as they go to, you know, um, run the CPX adapter?
No, ideally, as part of I mean, they have to just follow more or less same thing as the Istio adapter itself. Only thing that, okay, you have to actually select the CPS adapter, and that installation validation part, it will be exactly similar to the Istio one itself. But yes, we will actually need changes in the YAML file. Like in the Meshery, we need to have the YAML files. So I think though, like when I was doing the testing, I had those kind of YAML files created. So similar to the Istio and others, we need to have the YAML file for the CPX, and I think then our Meshery should actually be able to pick it up. So some changes with respect to the YAML files only.
Got it. Do you want to? Could you do me this favor? Can you share that? It's just a simple update to the to the meshery.yaml file, the Docker compose file. That if you want to share that in Slack.
Sure. I think I might have some. I mean, in the Meshery is that deployment YAMLs folder. I think I have just created 2 YAML files: Meshery CPS deployment YAML and service.yaml. So I think, and probably a Docker compose might be. I might actually did the change for that Docker compose file also.
Oh, okay.
So I will share that one in the Slack.
Nice. And then that very good. Then that way, the rest of the folks on the call can fairly easily grab that, displace their existing meshery.yaml with that new compose file that includes CPX, and help do. And so part of, I think, graduating from beta to stable would be, getting a few folks using it and just getting some testing going on in that regard. Two is, I think there's a couple of issues that we've got open for updating some documentation to include a description of CPX, to include the CPX adapter in the list of adapters. And there's one area inside the docs that will be it's a page set aside for description of each individual adapter. Most of them are not very well done, or are missing much of a description of really of all the capabilities that particular adapter provides, that we would document that here. And so we would ideally have a CPX adapter page that kind of walks people through the adapter capabilities.
Yes. I remember I saw that page. Yeah. It was in the part of the documentation. I think it is one of the issues open.
Okay.
We'll need to have those all information there. I think we'll need it for all the adapters itself.
Yeah. It would really be helpful if there was a good Istio one to base yours off of. So there's another action, Garish, that we need to get to. We need to get this first one done so that D-Raj and others can work on their adapter docs. Okay, good. Thanks for bringing that up, D-Raj. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone have anything else? There's a couple of you that I think I owe some chats with. So Mohit, Nupur, Hector. I've got some unfinished chats, some things that I want to chat up with you, but very happy to see you guys on the call.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity to work together with you guys. As you know, I'm here located in the same city with Jesus. It looked like Jesus is still on some occasion or something. I have been trying to call him, but it looked like he's still on Christmas Eve and all this stuff. Well, with best wishes for all you guys. This coming 2020, and as I was saying, Lee, I will try to participate more frequently from an endpoint. As you know, I am an IT manager.
Yeah.
with a large experience managing IT groups, and I will help Jesus in order to test marketing whatever is needed on this part of the country.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. It's funny. There's a contributor in the community. His name's Nuno, and for the longest time, he would sort of, from my perspective, he would sort of sheepishly say, "Well, I'm not a developer, so I don't know Go or I don't know these, and so I can only kind of give some feedback." It's like, and he's been here for a number of months now, and he was having some reflections over break, saying how he'd really come to understand the importance of the feedback that he's giving. He was frequently on the call demonstrating where he's having an issue with trying to use the technology, trying to use the project. Very critical that that feedback or that component of it. So good, great, perfect. Yeah, you have to kick Jesus and tell him to stop being lazy to come back off of.
I mean, I know that he's running also another project. I have been participating with him and the rest of the open source community here in Mexico. My intention is to be more actively in this open source community in the whole country. I think we have a couple of ideas in order to enforce or reinforce this project, measuring and also different front that we have to encourage in our country open source and this kind of technology based on community meetings and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm more related to infrastructure and communication. I'm more related to end user support, communication, and networking. And in some way, I'm also sharing effort with Jesus because he's more like a developer. And I think we are together. We will conform a better team to give more expertise based on our skills as a group.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you guys have already had a significant impact on the project. I was pointing it out a couple of weeks ago, where the number of stars on the Meshry GitHub project, like, oh, that was fantastic. Yeah, you guys put us past the milestone.
Yes, he's a little more ahead of me, talking about GitHub. I became late on this October Hacktober Fest that he did last year and at the end of the year. But he invited me right away because we have a couple of friends. We share a couple of friends with the same interest, and I will speed up my learning about GitHub because I mean I came late to that thing in order to participate testing or marketing on our end based on our community down here in Mexico.
You're in good company. The vast majority of us are still learning GitHub.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Very good. We'll see everyone same time next week.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye, all. See you guys.